Welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. I'm D.V. LeBron. Today I'm interviewing a very special guest, Mr. Justin Coffman. How are you doing, Mr. Coffman?
I'm doing good, D.V. I appreciate you having me on the show, and hello to all the Ellis County talkers out there.
Hey, you recently were re-elected city council, and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
It was a very long campaign season with the presidential election, and then yours right afterwards.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to governing?
I am looking forward to governing, and this will be my second term. I was elected in 2018 to City Council Place 5, and was up for re-election this year, and fortunately didn't have an opponent, and so I didn't have to go through the process that a lot of other candidates did and a lot of recently elected folks did. So I was able to kind of focus on the task at hand and not have to worry about those peripheral things that would have distracted me otherwise. So.
Why did you decide to run for city council?
It's a really long story, but to keep it brief and not to preach at you, because we are in a church right now.
We
I am
are
a pastor.
We are at the church.
But I felt it was the calling of the Lord to step into leadership and to grow to a different level of influence and in order to be able to have a greater voice into people's lives. And I've served the community as a chaplain for years and years, and that is what initially got me interested and involved in our community's leadership. Met with previous mayors for years and years, previous council members, and then finally, after some encouragement by a sitting council member and the former mayor, I decided to put my name in the hat to run for council. I have a passion to, and again, not to preach, but I have a passion to see Christ's name on the forefront of all things Midlothian. And that's, truthfully, that's what I'm about. So when they say all council members have an agenda, yes, I do have an agenda, and that is that Christ would lead the way and be the God of our city. So that's where I'm at.
That's beautiful purpose. It really is. You often chime in on local Facebook sites, Midlothian Talk and such, and you answer constituents' questions. What is the biggest misconception you think the public has about the city council?
About the city in general is that in 2018, what I recognized as a person sitting in the audience at the city council was that these are really good people that are just serving our city. But then I would go on Facebook and I would see, and different social media sites, and I would see just venom being attacked toward the city council members. And I thought, if people would just gain understanding, try to get an education on what it is that the city council members actually do and the processes that they have to go to and go through, then they would have a better understanding and then give grace when they had disagreements, or they wouldn't just jump to conclusions. And so I decided in 2018 that I was going to run for council, and my goal would be to attempt to bridge the gap between the community and the city council. And so to get rid of any sort of misconceptions or lack of education that's out there. And so my platform was literally transparency, availability, and communication. And as a communicator for a living, my goal is to communicate truth in any chance that I can get. And so Facebook is a great avenue to be able to do that. I don't get drawn into the emotional side of things.
I noticed.
I attempt to just bring clarity and try to represent the will of the council, what the council's decision was made. Even if I voted the opposite direction, I still attempt to just represent the decision that the council made to the people, to bring factual, truthful information that's not slanted one direction or the other.
Unbiased. That's something that I'm trying to do in this show, and it's definitely something that's appreciated.
Yeah, well, it's hard to do whenever you're so emotionally involved in things and you give so much time to things. It's hard not to have an emotional tie to it. And so when accusations or false accusations are made, it's really difficult not to come back. The Bible says we return curses with blessings. So I try to attempt to return with blessings and truth, and that's kind of, it's been a goal.
Still working on that, Pastor.
Yeah, I'm not perfect.
I'm still working on that.
Plenty of faults.
What do you think is the biggest problem facing the city of Midlothian right now?
I think it's the same thing that everyone would say, and that's just the rate of growth. We're a community that's doubled in population pretty much every 10 years. We're looking probably to double again in the next 10. And so how we manage that growth, how we are strategic about that growth, I think the bulk of Midlothian would agree that that's the main issue right now, is how we're growing.
What things would you like to see to address growth?
I think just strategic growth. I think we have a comprehensive plan. We have a master plan that kind of guides us and leads us. It's not our Bible, so to speak. We can make adjustments to it, but sort of follow the plan that's laid out before us as far as what size lots go where, what developments go where is a good place to have commercial zoning, where is a good place to have residential zoning, and attempt to keep those things in alignment with the comprehensive plan that was developed by a ton of community input. And so sticking to what the community has asked of us and making decisions that reflect that comprehensive plan, I think.
Where can the public find that if they're interested in looking at all that?
The city website has a ton of information. I would encourage any community member that's interested in the way that the city is planned to develop to look up on the city's website. Just search comprehensive plan. It was adopted in 2018, and then you can also look at my personal passion is the downtown master plan, seeing downtown stay alive and flourish. That's a great document too. That was adopted, I think, in 20.
Yeah. Well, there was recently a big party downtown.
Yeah.
You was there. I saw the thing.
Yeah.
Do you see more things like that happening in the city?
I do. I think that now that hopefully we're coming to the end of COVID, I think that one of the issues with our community recently has been that we haven't been able to get together and fellowship as neighbors. And so it's when you're able to sit down with somebody, have a cup of coffee with someone, go to the 8th Street dance with someone, it's different than having Facebook battles, you know. And so whenever you are able to communicate with somebody face to face, it builds community, and community is what the city is all about. So it's a really long way of saying that I'm extremely hopeful that we're able to continue to have park days and continue to have movie nights in the park and like things like the wine walk and the 8th Street dance and those sorts of things. They build community, which ultimately leads to greater quality of life, which ultimately makes life better. And so that's where I'm at.
And community makes a growing town feel more like what it has been, what people love. The people who have been in Midlothian a long time love that community. So
I always say, living things grow, and growing things change. Show me something that's not growing, and I'll show you something that's dying. And so Midlothian is living, it's thriving, it's growing, and it's changing. And so sometimes I'm a 6th generation Midlothian. And so I've seen a lot of change. My great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents have seen a lot of change in this area, in this community. And some of it we all agree with, some of it we don't. The challenge that we all have is to recognize the changes, sit down with people that think differently than we do, respect them and honor them enough to have the conversation, ultimately come to a resolution, or simply agree to disagree, but love my neighbor through it. And that's huge for developing community and increasing the quality of life. Yeah.
Going to a quality of life issue. Right now, next to that growth, people talk about property taxes all the time. It is statewide. Everybody's talking about it. Some people say that they have been taxed out of their home. What are your thoughts on this?
Since 2018, we've lowered the tax rate by 3 cents overall. We went from just over 70 cents to 67 cents. That's the taxable value right now, or the tax rate right now. I think it's a complex question. I was also able to be a part of doing a senior tax freeze, and so the taxable value for senior citizens will no longer raise, so their taxes are frozen, which I think is huge for our senior citizens population. It's a complex issue, and I am certainly aware of it, and I believe the entire council is aware of it and cognizant of it, and attempting to managing a city is a huge balancing act. How do you manage a really rapidly growing city that has major infrastructure needs and keep the taxes reasonable? And that's the big challenge. And so keeping the tax rate the same or gradually lowering it while continuing to keep Midlothian, the quality of life that Midlothian demands and needs, while keeping all that the same is really sort of a difficult topic. And so I believe in a gradual approach to lowering the tax rate over time. And I believe that we can do that through increased commercial and industrial development and enticing businesses to come and plant deep roots here in our community in order to eventually offset the tax rate on the local residents. And it brings up another hot topic that people complain about quite a bit, and that is tax abatements. And tax abatements aren't always a fun thing to talk about, but tax abatements, when done correctly, is playing chess while other towns and other cities are playing checkers. And if you can attract the Googles of the world, which we've done, to come to our community, set up some deep roots, make major investment in the community, after that tax abatement expires, which it will, in the community, and the community begins to thrive, because then all those taxes just get flown into the community. And ultimately build the commercial, build the industrial tax base up so much to where it forces the tax rate on the citizens to go down. That's my long-term vision for it. And I believe that I can't speak for the rest of the council. I can only speak for myself, but I believe that that's the intent, that's the heart behind this current city council.
Right. And definitely the abatements is a hot topic.
Yeah.
I mean, the abatement on Google, some people were positive, mostly what I've seen is negative.
Yeah. Well, a great point to that one specifically is you cannot abate school taxes, okay? So the city really took the hit, and but the school district got millions of dollars immediately. And so that decision alone, I believe, impacted the school district's decision to lower their tax rate a little bit. And so we're working hand in hand with other leaders around the community in order to take an entire community approach to these big time decisions like that. In 10 years from now, this tax abatement for Google, actually 8 years from now at this point, is going to go away. And at that point, it's taxes in the bank, and it will help the entire community, all the citizens of the vote.
And someone's got to pay for the road. Something has to pay for the roads, the potholes. And stuff.
Yeah, we got to get those things fixed.
I definitely, I can see that. Since we're talking about taxes and abatements, can you tell the people about our current budget, and do you have any fiscal health concerns for the city?
Yeah. So we're in a healthy place financially as a community, as a city. The budget process, the budget gets adopted October 1st and runs October to October. And the process is just now really ramping up as far as the city council goes. We will be having budget meetings toward the end of June and throughout the month of July and August in order to hopefully have a budget that's able to be approved by October 1st. Last year, because of COVID, we took an extremely conservative stance on the budget. We didn't increase things. We didn't buy things that we needed. We didn't implement infrastructure goals that we had put in place. We didn't stick to our strategic plan as far as the budget goes, because we didn't know the entire impact that COVID would have on the city itself. There was only one department that had any increase at all, and I'm proud of this. We took an extremely conservative view on every other department except one. One department had an increase, and that was the police department. We increased our budget for the police department because safety in the community is utmost importance. And
So you won't be defunding the police?
While the rest of the world is yelling about defunding the police, Midlothian, Texas increased the budget for the police department. And we will, I can't speak for the entire council, but my personal heart is that to not decrease, but to increase funding for our police department.
Now, since we got into that subject, how do you know, there's been a lot of talk about, in the last year, about race and policing.
Yeah.
And Midlothian is changing.
Yeah.
We're getting a lot more culturally diverse.
Sure.
How do you address those issues with communities of color.
Yeah.
Policing.
I think education is huge. I think continuing education from the police department standpoint is huge. But our police department has an entire program that is dedicated to developing community relationships and being available, being out there, being proactive. They are, in fact, next week they have offered to meet with any high school seniors that want to come and learn about policing. They will teach them like what's going through the mind of a police officer when they pull over a young person that late at night, you know, and what's going through that police officer's mind. I think that once we can kind of put ourselves in the other person's shoes, then we might realize why why a police officer might be worried about or apprehensive about approaching a vehicle and a little bit on edge. And so I think we have to take steps to bridge the gap between the community of all races and then the police department of all races in order to walk a mile in each other's shoes so that we can ultimately be a better community because we've done the legwork to develop relationships with all people. And so our police department's extremely diverse. A lot of people don't know that, but our police department's diverse. We have officers of all races. We've added quite a few female officers in the past couple of years.
Yes.
So there's intentionality behind our police department. Our police chief, Carl Smith, does a wonderful job of being intentional about creating community in order to bridge the gap between the police department or law enforcement basically and the community itself. So,
Well, I like that the police department is having that program. There's one thing that you learn, and I've done simulators, firing simulators and stuff, and I got killed 8 out of the 10 times.
I can't imagine walking.
Because there were scenarios where you don't want to shoot at certain people or whatever. It just, you know, and then you get shot in these scenarios.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's just a little tidbit of what these officers face.
These men and women are faced with impossible decisions that have to be made in a split second. And we as a community, Midlothian friends, we as a community need to be cognizant of what might be going through the mind of an officer as they approach our vehicles. And so because of that, I told my daughter, who is 16, she's about to be 17, I said, if you ever get pulled over, I want you to immediately roll all 4 windows down in your vehicle, and I want you to place your hands on the steering wheel. I don't want you digging around in your purse for your license. You wait until he asks you, and then you communicate with him or her and say, I need to get my license, it's right here, can I grab it? I think just communication and trying to put yourself, like I said earlier, put yourself in that officer's shoes. It's late at night, there's a vehicle that you don't know what's going on. I would be on edge as an officer, and so I think we can take steps as a community to make the officers feel more comfortable. And we should do that if we can.
Right, and that rolling is excellent. I mean, that's what I do. And I don't get pulled over much, but when I have it, I actually cross my hands over the steering wheel.
Yeah.
So it's to make it the potentially deadly situation a lot more comfortable for that officer.
And I'll take my ticket, and if I have an argument with the ticket, I will argue that in court, not with the officer. And we could save ourselves a whole lot of headache as a nation if we would take that approach.
So I wanted to ask you, this is the point where you get to speak to the people of Midlothian directly, what you want to convey to them. What would you like to tell the constituents in closing? What is your final pitch for tonight?
I think it's be a good neighbor. Get to know who lives next door to you. If you see them struggling, go check on them. If you see that their yard has grown up and their grass is getting tall and that's not the normal for them, go knock on the door. You don't have to have the city code enforcement go be the neighbor for you. You can go knock on the door for them and go check on your neighbor. Make sure that we're all in this community together. And I think that we define our culture. We have the opportunity to define the culture of Midlothian. And we need to not take that lightly. If we don't define our culture, outside forces will. And so we can take active steps by, picking up a piece of trash when you walk by it, or or see a need, fill a need. That's taking ownership of the community. So I would charge Midlothian, residents of Midlothian, to, if you see an issue, fix it. If you can't fix it, then get help to fix it, and whether that's whatever spectrum is, if it's as simple as picking up a piece of trash, or hearing about an elderly person that needs food and going to man a house and picking it up for them, or picking up groceries for whatever, see a need, fill a need, be a neighbor to one another, love one another, as the Bible tells us to do. So, not to preach, but that's where my passion's at, and it is simply to create the culture of our community by loving one another, being a good neighbor.
And there's definitely, that makes for a better society in general.
For sure.
God had a good plan for that.
Yeah.
That he did. Well, I do thank you so much for sitting with me and taking your time, because I know you're a busy man as a pastor, and I appreciate you communicating with the people of Midlothian and Ellis County. I will be having some more shows. I have some candidates coming up for the current office, and I'm looking to see if I can schedule a couple more interviews with your public servants. If there's anybody that you would like to see on, please let me know. And if there's any questions that you'd like to see asked, let me know as well. Go ahead and PM me. Oh, before I let you go, can you tell the people in Midlothian how they can reach you if they have any questions?
Absolutely. You can email me is the best way to do so, and that's Justin.Coffman, that's COFFMAN, at Midlothian.tx.us. And so again, that's Justin.Coffman at Midlothian.tx.us.
There you have it, folks. I appreciate you tuning in to the Ellis Talker Show, where I do this show for you. I believe that an informed society is a free society, and the only way we do that is by knowing the people that run our government and the people who want to run our government. Have a good night, and thank you for tuning in.